Hello, and welcome to the Torah Outreach Program, Erev Shabbos, Burst of Inspiration. Today's Burst of Inspiration is dedicated as a schus, a merit, for the hostages, that they should be returned immediately, and for the soldiers in Eretz Yisrael, that they should be tremendously successful in their endeavors. Today's Parsha, Parshas Tazria, a very, very strange issue that happens right at the beginning. The Parsha tells us that when a woman gives birth, she is considered tame'ah, impure, for up to 14 days. And she, after that time is up, she goes to the mikvah, she brings certain sacrifices, and she goes back to her state of purity. But this is very strange. Having a child is such a central part of the Torah. Having children, raising the next generation, bringing the next generation into this world, continuing the Jewish people, all the wonderful things that are connected to that. And because she gave birth, she's impure? What did she do wrong? And the answer is, she did nothing wrong. Just the opposite. Life, says the Torah, is the highest form of purity. And the higher the purity is, when that purity leaves, when that life form leaves, when someone dies, that is the lowest form of impurity. A dead body is called the Avi Avos Hatuma. The granddaddy of all types of impurity is a dead body. So let's go back to the woman. She was pregnant, which means she had another life inside of her. And when that life left her, it was replaced with a state of impurity. The greater the purity, the greater life force, when it leaves, it is replaced with an impurity that is just as great. So this does not mean the woman did anything wrong, just the opposite. She did something beautiful. But what it does show us is the emphasis that God and His Torah put on life. Every moment of life is precious and crucial. It doesn't make a difference if you are unborn as of yet, or if you are 100 years old and can't move. Every moment of life in God's eyes and the eyes of His Torah is precious and is called the highest level of purity, and when it leaves is the lowest level of impurity. I'll tell a very personal story about this, that every moment of life is precious. Even if someone is completely disabled, comatose, those moments of life are incredible. My father was in a coma. I would visit him daily, and I would speak to him in his coma, and didn't know if he was hearing or he wasn't. And people were wondering, like, why is he still hanging on? The doctors couldn't understand. As a matter of fact, one of the doctors kept telling me that I'm the only one who has the authority to have the machines turned off, to pull the plug. And I refused. And I told this very secular doctor that you have the responsibility to make my father comfortable, but you do not have the authority to say when my father lives or dies. And weeks went by, and there was no change. But one day, I decided on a whim. I wanted to say Vidoy, confession that a person should say. First it says on Yom Kippur, and should say before they pass away, if possible, if they're able to. And all of a sudden, just in a whim, I decided I wanted to say it with him, even though he was completely comatose. I grabbed, just on a whim, I grabbed a Yom Kippur Machzor out of my office, and I went to the hospital. And when I walked in, I was shocked to see that I had startled him. He shuddered when I walked in. His eyes were closed. And I said, "Dad, if you can hear me, open your eyes." And he did. He was obviously conscious. He couldn't speak because of the trach in his throat. He couldn't move because he was a quadriplegic. But he was obviously conscious. I said the Vidoy with him. And there were tears in his eyes. As I left his room, I called the doctor. The doctor answered, and I told him what I had seen. He said, "Yeah, I saw the same thing, and I'm sorry I didn't speak to you, but your father has turned the corner. He's come back." After all those months that his previous doctor kept telling me to pull the plug, the new doctor said, "Your father came back." And now we have to talk about what to do from this point, but we'll talk more tomorrow and see how he progresses. The very next day, my phone rang. It was that doctor who apologized. And he said, I'm embarrassed to be the one to have to tell you this. I'm the one who told you your father's making progress. Your father turned a corner. Your father passed away last night. Everybody was wondering, what's he hanging on? Why is he hanging on? Nobody knew. The other doctor was telling me to pull the plug. And I said, it's not up to you, it's up to his maker. It's up to God. And then, on the day that it just hit me, in a whim, to see Vila with my father, the confession that we say on Yom Kippur, and the commitment to turn our lives around, he passed away the next day. Every moment, every second of life is precious. Whether you are a young adult and very, very productive, whether you are a senior citizen and you're in an assisted living facility and barely getting by in a walker or a wheelchair, whether you are an unborn child, or whether you are a comatose patient, every moment of life is precious.